Welcome guys to the first official Kengan hot takes video. I posted this on the community tab a few days ago asking everyone for their hot takes, and I'm going to comment on those in today's video. Reminder that this is all in good fun, and if you're triggered by some things I say, that's just unlucky as a whole. I don't really care. I may turn this into a reoccurring series on the channel if people enjoy, and yes, stay tuned for hot take posts about other series I cover on the channel. Also, the post I uploaded got over 300 comments, so sadly I can't include everyone's hot takes, but I'll try to include as much as possible, but stay tuned for the next post. Now, let's begin. Occupy vs Kano is one of the most realistic fights in all of anime. I wouldn't really consider this much of a hot take. A lot of people have been saying this. I think I've said it a few times in videos myself. It's probably one of the most realistic fights in Kengan, but if you haven't seen videos of, actual fighters trying to recreate this fight scene, you see that there are a lot of elements that aren't really realistic whatsoever, but the grappling aspect definitely is. Purgatory gladiators receiving wins via the rules in place doesn't mean that they're weak by any means. If they were always fighting under Kengan rules, I'd assume they would employ excellent use of strategy or tactics going into their fights. Well, maybe for some of the fighters, but the Purgatory gladiators that, got killed to get the win, I wouldn't really say the same thing about. And also, disregarding as a whole, just look at how much injuries the Kengan fighters who won received compared to Purgatory fighters who won. It just kinda disproves that point quite a bit. The comparisons between Drota and Croaky were totally valid. Drota would have been an absolute beast if he went all out and actually allowed himself to kill his opponents. Under Kengan rules, that man would just use his swing and break an opponent's neck. Purgatory rules were the only reason he lost, especially to someone like Jaime that was much weaker and his natural counter. While I agree with most things about Drota most likely being a beast if he didn't have his, no killing thing for himself and the Purgatory rules and, the natural counter of Jaime. But I do think Croaky is a tier or 2 tiers above Drota. My view is that Drota's mastery of his judo is equivalent to Croaky's mastery of his K1 style. Drota may have that insane speed for one throw at the start of the fight, but that didn't really occur much later on during that fight. And Croaky also has much more to, gauge his power. For example, he has, as stated, the pinnacle of foresight as well. And let's not forget his knowledge of other martial arts styles that he used to defeat people in the Annihilation tournament. Just as a whole, I think more can be shown from Croaky's overall arsenal compared to Drota with his judo alone. And on a peer compatibility or overall effectiveness, I think Croaky's K1 style is better than judo as well. But yeah, if Drota was, willing to kill or a Kengan fighter, I think he would be much stronger than what he was in Purgatory. Cosmo could roll most of the Purgatory gladiators. I'm guessing you're referring to the 13 fighters on Team Purgatory, and I don't really know about that. Let's go over it. Carlos, I'm not too sure. Possible could maybe defeat Carlos. Falcon, I would say Cosmo can defeat Falcon. Toa, Cosmo just doesn't defeat him. Yumi, I would say he can. Lutien, probably not. Naden, I'm not too sure about, but I would honestly go for Naden in that matchup. So yeah, as a whole, he may be able to defeat half, but honestly, I just don't agree with that. Kazi is a legend that even Lolong and Drota fear. Well, it's not really a hot take, it's just, common knowledge and fact at this point. Julius can fight any top tier fighters, and 7 out of 10 times he would beat them, not including, the 2 gods of Fister Seeker. I think he can fight and have a high difficulty fight with all the other top tiers, but whether or not he wins 7 out of 10 times really depends on the matchup. For example, the likes of Kano would definitely be too much for Julius in my opinion, but other fighters maybe 7 out of 10 times, but I would still definitely give Kano the big, dub for that one. But yeah, Julius is definitely a top tier fighter among the others. The Allen vs Ryan match, while displayed something that made a lot of fans hyped, was utterly disappointing. Yeah, I agree with that. That chapter alone was, one of the best in all of Omega. But on a broader scheme of things, that fight was a colossal disappointment. So yeah, I do agree with that. And Justice Boy's character in Omega is absolute dumpster fire. I'm not too sure about that. He showed signs in Ashura that he wasn't going to change, especially when Cosmo, after getting tortured, was trying to reach out to him, shake his hand, show respect. he still didn't do that, so he did show signs that he wasn't going to change, so I can't really complain too much about that really. What Kengan and Omega lacked are meaningful fights. The best fight of Kengan and Ashura are not the ones that have the coolest matchups, but the ones that have the most meaning to them. Kengan and Ashura fights are fantastic, but often the fighters are just cool set pieces for fun action, which is why best fights on the other hand are the ones that involve matchups where characters clash their fighting philosophies through fists, or that have great meaning behind their fight as a whole. But Kengan Omega has yet to have a fight with deeper meaning, which is sad because the fighters generally are set up as meaningful counterparts, yet they end up as hollow. Even Kano vs Lutien is largely meaningless because Lutien provides no ideological fodder to Kano. Him being a Gu survivor doesn't add anything outside of using Formless. Well, I think some fights add stuff to, you know, the broader world of, you know, Kengan Omega or the Kangaverse, such as the Tiger Vessel's appearance in the Lutien flashback and, you know, his connection to ZG and all that. So add more stuff to other elements of the, you know, Kengan world. But I do agree that regarding the fights themselves, they're being kinda meaningless at times regarding, you know, the ideological battles that you discussed. Falcon using poison should be considered as illegal as when Alan brought a knife into the arena. Well, not really, considering that Falcon's poison is actually part of his body now. It's not like he can remove the poison unless he like chops off his toe at this point. So it's really just part of him rather than Alan, you know, having a literal knife in his pocket. So there is a pretty big difference, but I do agree that a lot of people don't really like the use of poison during this fight. But remember, the likes of Medicine Man used poison in his fight, and of course, you know, Hanafusa as well. People don't complain about them, but they enjoy complaining about Falcon's poison toe, with that maybe or possibly be considered the most legal out of all of those in, you know, the broader perspective. Carlos won his fight fair and square. Yeah, I agree with that. He used the rules to his advantage. He was losing in the striking battle and he had to come up with a way to win by all means, and he just disregarded his pride and won using the rules. You just gotta respect Carlos Medel, the absolute Chad. Alan Wu isn't a jobber, it's just that Ryan was just that strong. Well, kinda. We need to remember that Alan, you know, entered his, you know, removal state while Ryan wasn't serious whatsoever. He was still playing around. He was able to punch him, and all he did was really push Ryan back against a non-serious base form Ryan who was just chilling. And then once Ryan got serious, he zero diffed him. But the fact that he did nothing to Ryan while he wasn't serious in base form just proves that Alan really isn't all that. And we also had the other Purgatory fighters like Dongchen making fun of him at various other points prior to his fight. So yeah, I still consider Alan Wu absolute trash. Okubo is a cool guy. Nah, he's a clown that shall fall in the tournament. Oma has found a way to use his restrained form of removal with the advanced light. Along with the Nico plus Kuro techniques, he's on par with Kano and Kroki now. Well, I think he's going to be on par with Kano and Kroki now, but I'm not too sure about the other stuff he said in that. I think Waka will win with an Evolved Blast Core against Rashi. Also, for no reason, I think Okubo will destroy his opponent. Okay, that's not really that much of a hot take. Ryan is without a doubt the strongest character in the manga. Well, you do have all these author statements hyping up Ryan to, you know, next level, so I wouldn't be surprised if he actually is the strongest character in the whole series, or will be at some point, but I personally don't think so. Lolong one-tapping two men that just beat the hell out of each other isn't impressive. I would say it's kind of impressive due to his speed, and we did see, you know, a whole lot of other Kengan fighters like Oma and Waka being pretty impressed by Lolong doing that. So if they're impressed, I don't see any reason why we, the viewers, shouldn't be impressed. If the guys who are meant to be around his tier potentially are impressed by what he did. So with that alone, I would say it's pretty impressive, but what you're saying does have, you know, valid reasoning. Super Sim Ray blitzing could beat Kano in the first round. Potentially, but one issue I have is Kano does have Indestructible in round 1 and could use that to counter Ray. Even if he doesn't, you know, perceive Ray's moves, he could just use it after getting hit once and then be fine. And Ray's, you know, super simp mode doesn't really last that long, so I do think Kano does have the chance to win, but yeah, it's probably more on the side of Ray at that point. Okubo will win his fight, Waka will lose, or Imatrix to his family members alive. Yeah, I agree with that. I think Okubo will win his fight against Tarashi. I think Waka will lose against Lolong. And the theory of Oma still having family alive would, you know, be pretty cool, and hopefully that is the case. Mutaba wouldn't be as cool if he wasn't blind. Yeah, I guess so, but his design alone is probably one of the most badass in the whole series, but him being blind as well just adds a next level of coolness or badassery to his overall character. Alan is actually strong. He's on the same level with people like Cosmo or Mutaba. I heavily disagree. We haven't seen anything from Alan that really proves that, and any argument you can really come up with is just really filled with, you know, headcanon and various assumptions that don't really have anything in the story that really backs them up, if I'm being honest. Yumi is stronger than we think, and in a non-special match he would have been a high diff for Misasa. Well, I do think he's potentially stronger than what we think, but you need to consider the match at the start where the ring was still fairly big. It wasn't as easy for Misasa to land strikes, but still, Yumi, all he could do at the start was land a scratch on Misasa's face. So even when he has, as stated, the advantage during the fight, he couldn't capitalize on it. So no, I don't think Misa will win high diff in a regular match. I do think Misa would win low diff or mid diff again. The Hatsumi vs Kano fight was rigged. I don't know about rigged. I think this Hatsumi wasn't prepared for Kano's absolute chadness and got clapped. Justice Boy has gotten some favourable matchups, held by his girl in the first 2 rounds of the Annihilation Tournament, fought Haru, an overweight man-child with wasted potential, I agree with that, then fought a green Cosmo that didn't even know why he fought and also had a massive size advantage over, and then the guy just mentions his fights with Gozo and Ryuki. Justice Mode is a detriment that basically makes him a mindless gorilla, I agree with that. Hot take, he just ain't that good. Amazing physique and reflexes, but no real special technique / finishes. Just a dumb dude with top tier reflexes. Well, I do think with that alone, it does make him quite strong as a whole, and I do agree with the thing of his justice, you know, crazy mode, making him a mindless gorilla. But that mindless gorilla state does allow him to overcome some things other people wouldn't be able to, such as getting his whole body paralyzed and going for a crazy headbutt rampage on Nicholas. But yeah, I agree with some points in that. Current Julius could beat Kuroki Gensai. Do you mean Ashura Kuroki Gensai or current Kuroki? Regardless, it's potentially true, but you know, who knows. Even without his poison, Falcon isn't weak. Yeah, his misdirection actually is quite powerful, especially if people are seeing it for the first time. If they've seen it before, he may get, you know, rolled by a lot more people, but first time fighting a lot of people does make Falcon pretty impressive. And also considering that Rito was able to defeat the likes of Robinson prior to his Falcon fight, it does, you know, make Falcon stronger than what a lot of people initially thought. Koga isn't that fun of a character. He feels like he's just replacing Kazi for the role of being shocked. Well, you can't really replace Kazi because Kazi's still there being shocked, but I do get that feeling in the current tournament because he isn't fighting, but all the stuff of him training and being with Ryuki prior doesn't really demonstrate that whatsoever. Kiryu Setsuna looks better with his haircut. Sure, I don't really care regardless. Crazy hot take, Purgatory Dude is the other Nico post-body reconstruction of the Wu. Okay, I just don't think so. I'm not even going to bother reading on that, but yeah, cool theory, my G. Ryuto one day will be a unit. Even Kuroki said raise the edge is a technique he could never hope to replicate. Yeah, that is true. It's a, you know, God's gift to Ryuto alone. I really hope he becomes much better with Kuroki training. He has potential, at least for me. Yeah, I agree he has potential, but an issue I have is his age compared to a lot of other characters. He's one of the older fighters in, you know, Team Kang, with him being, I believe, like 28 or 30, around Oma's age, and being someone who's definitely going to be outshined by a lot of other fighters soon who are much younger than him does make it seem like Rito won't get that much shine as the story progresses. Kang and Ashura fights are better than Omega because of one reason. I think it's more than one reason, but I think a lot of people do agree that the better fights in Kang and Ashura are a lot better than any fight we've had so far in Kang and Omega. Hopefully that changes in the coming fights, but yeah, I've been enjoying Kang and Omega a lot. I do think Kang and Ashura's fights are still a step above what we've got so far. Gaolang is a jobber. His main claim to fame is being undefeated champion of boxing in a world where professionals in anything are generally outclassed by the average Kang fighter. Gozo is a great example, as he's a world-class athlete that can't make a dent on anyone in the Annihilation Tournament. I don't know about that, it's just he kind of got unlucky in fighting Waka in the first round, you know, the genetic mutant of the story. Some people constantly call Jota a jobber despite being comparable to both Kuroki and Long because of one bad showing. So for me, Gaolang is a jobber since after his fight with the Fang, Hatsumi comments that the Fang has no visible damage and wishes he could have roughened up more. On top of being physically outclassed by many other fighters, he also isn't the brightest as he got outsmarted by Metal in the end of the fight. So no, I don't think Yao Lang is a jobber. The fact that he was able to put up such a good fight with Kanagito, which was stated by Kana himself his hardest fight, with him having 160 plus Kengan fights prior to that, that puts Yao Lang over 90% of the Kengan fighters. And then regarding the Carlos fight, yes, he was outsmarted and outplayed by Carlos, but still he demonstrated that he is indeed a stronger fighter than the likes of Carlos. And as the tournament has gone on, we've got more information about Carlos, which is putting him high in the rankings for Purgatory, considering he was able to defeat Dong Chen recently after we learned that Dong Chen defeated Naden. So Carlos is a lot stronger than what a lot of people think, and Yao Lang was able to destroy him in hand-to-hand combat, just got outplayed by the rules. And now we have the last hot take in today's video. That is, Julius is super overrated. No, but yep, that's everything for the first Kengan Omega hot takes video. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure to subscribe. As always, shout out to people who support the channel via the Patreon, absolute mad lads. But yep, that's it guys, peace.